All right. We are here with Ryan Greenspan
What's up?
and on the Full Experience podcast. What's going on over here?
Not much. Just kind of hanging out and getting ready to see where this experience takes me.
Well, it is an experience, Ryan, and it's always good to have you here. Over the years, as some would say, we've seen our ups and our downs. I would definitely say we've seen a lot more ups than downs. There's been quite a few adventures I've had with you, but to really kind of get right into the meat of this, because that's what most people want to see. They want to see the end of the buffet. They don't want to see the samplers or the fillers at the beginning, like the fried shrimp tempura. They want to see like the steaks.
Hmm.
2021 was exciting for you guys. You won a world championship. You're at the top of your game. 40, 50 years old, it doesn't matter. You're still playing better than everybody in the league. What do you think that is? What's the reason? Give us the secret to success on how you've been at the top of your game for 20 years.
Well, it's because I have teammates like Alex and Yosh hanging around, keeping me spry. And
There's got to be other reasons, and we don't want to hear about your water. What is going on at the training camp? What is going on with Dynasty? Why are you still the best player in the world? I mean, you have every right to be, and I'm happy you are actually. You deserve it more than anyone. But what is the reason?
I honestly don't know. I don't really have, aside from the generic, work hard and make sure you're having fun. It's difficult to say exactly what the formula for success is. You mentioned water. I do want to bring up a very, very interesting point about that. You drink. I would want to drink what the guys that are winning are drinking. You know what I mean?
And what is that?
Spring water. It's just natural mountain spring water. None of that Dasani, you know, tap water baloney. Like, and I shout out to your dad. I gave him a bunch of info on it, and he said that he got rid of all the Dasani.
Oh, he's a big water guy now.
He's a big water guy now. Yeah, it's huge for your health. It's a big thing, and I don't know, the fountain of youth that just having
That
fun
you
with it.
seem to have tapped into.
Yeah. So maybe that has a small role to play in the success of Dynasty and myself is making sure that we're not drinking that Nestle Corp water.
So, Ryan, 20 years of Dynasty winning, you guys haven't seemed to slow down. I mean, obviously, everybody that's watching this either knows who you are, knows who Dynasty is. This is going to paintball players, right? Hopefully, it's seen by people that, don't play paintball as well, and it gets them excited to want to leave a legacy on a sport like you guys have done. Obviously, a lot of people take what I do for a lot of hearsay and craziness, but I do it to promote the game. What is it that you've loved so much about Dynasty the last 20 years that's kept you excited, but also kept you motivated enough to want to keep winning? I mean, you've win.
Well, that's actually a really good question. What keeps us motivated? It's just kind of the guys around. I like keeping people happy and making sure that everybody's having a good time, and a lot of that has to do, like I mentioned it, like having Alex on the team or any of the guys that we have on the team. It's just fun to be around. It's a great environment. No one who's on the team isn't in a position where they don't want to be there, right? You're never on a team because you've got guys on other teams and there's formulas for success, and you see like these other big brand, big team, big box teams that have great rosters and they're paying a lot of money to be there, and it just isn't clicking all the time. And it's just because people get complacent, right? They're not really playing for the guy next to them. They're not in the moment as much. It's just kind of like being there. So I love that we've had such a large group of players, and I mean now we've got a lot of the big resurgence of the guys that used to be playing on the team. We're calling them the legends at this point, but we're getting back together with a lot of them. We played with Eric Hunter, Rodney, Glenn, Quincy Boyaz. They just played an event. BC's kind of jumped back in here and there. Johnny Perchek. I think Opie just played in a couple, like a day. But we're getting all the guys that used to be on the team. We just picked up Archie, who played on Dynasty in like 2005 or 2007, somewhere in there. So there's this circle back of like this massive Dynasty family, which Bear, you are a part of. Back in 2001,
0102.
0102 world champs 0102.
Oh, come on, dude. We rode that to the moon. I mean, for most people that don't know, I was rostered with Dynasty their first year, youngest world, and won quite a few events while being on that roster. Didn't see a lot of playing time though, but we did.
Only knew the damage that we were doing back then.
We love the
legacy we were creating.
I learned a lot during those years of being on the Dynasty squad. Me growing up with you guys and watching you taking over the world in terms of being the most elite competitive pro paintball team the sport will ever see, which to me I hold dear. My family's been in paintball. I've been in paintball my whole life. My dad invented the tournament side of it, and give all the props to him that he may deserve. But what is it that you see Dynasty doing that's different the last 20 years going into 2020? You differentiate this year and not just make it another year? Do you guys
Yeah.
come in and win everything? Do you make new guns? Do you buy a league? What is it that's different? I mean, you have all these teams that buy players that can't seem to figure it out. So obviously that's not a dynasty method. What is it that's different this year?
Yeah, well, this year, are we talking 2021 or 2022? What was
2022.
different? 2022. So, one big thing that breathed a big breath of life into the team. A couple of things is taking over the field one, or creating field one, and taking over the project of building our own paintball gun. That was huge. That was a big, like I said, so it was a big shakeup. It's a big breath of fresh air. It definitely, there was some learning curves to it, and it took a long time to get the right formula. But it's a lot like creating the team and creating the environment around the team. There's a lot of trial and error. There's a lot of trial and error breaking down a field and getting this, that, and the other thing. I mean, we're going to support paintball a lot, and then I think in 2022 you're going to see Dynasty playing a lot more paintball just in general. We just signed on back with JT again. That's that breath of
Huge,
fresh air.
huge.
So we're back with them, and we're going to be inputting a lot into the product development side of things and getting a lot of design elements going. Alex has got Hormesis going. Field One is doing really well, and we're just continuing to innovate and drive the sport. And then obviously with that, creating a fun, winning environment for the guys on the team. Now it's hard to live up to 2021 standards and win the series again and win 2 events out of 50% of the events. But obviously we're going to try, and we know that with every event that we enter, the outcome is always going to be good. It's always going to be a great outcome. Win, lose, or draw. Either we're going to be growing and building on the experience and fixing things. Like you look at the first event this year in 2021, we took 10th place. Yeah, you said we were done. We lost Tyler, took 10th place. I was injured. It was looking a little bleak, but that was the thing, is we don't lose faith in that, and that stuff doesn't rattle us. It was funny. It's so funny, and Marcelo's starting to learn all this stuff too, as we brought him and Blake into the inner circle of the team. And the funny thing was, it's like we had a pretty rough practices going into World Cup also, and he was like noticeably worried. And then Dalton,
him at practice, Marcelo, man,
like, Marcelo, don't worry. He kept looking at us going, dude, how are you guys so calm? Like Dalton hurt himself. For like, dude, we're gonna be fine. Like, it's gonna be okay. We're gonna be good. We kept playing. We got through the prelims, and he's like, dude, how do you guys stay so calm? Like, what is going on? We're like, dude, just relax. Like, there's lots of paintball to be played. Yep. We've got a lot of time doing this, and I think that's another big thing into a lot of our success, is just being calm and staying positive and staying on the right track. Like, keep the train on the track. And
it's huge. I think that comes with experience.
Yeah, that comes with experience. Absolutely. Yeah. Like, when you just get your bucket and start bailing out a little bit of water and start fixing those patches, patching up the holes, and we're good to go. Like, get your oars. We're going through this.
Fine. Over the last 20 years of winning, obviously people that are watching this know that Dynasty has won more than any other pro team, right? And you have pro teams like Russian Legion who had their run. Impact had their time. Everybody seemed to have a small little light. Everybody put together these monster squads and budgets to take down the Dynasty. And they did for a day or a chapter, depending on how you look at it, but never can just hold it through and continue this legacy like Dynasty. What is the reasoning for that?
We definitely have longevity. I think a little bit of the Peter Pan syndrome, as teams are built up, they begin to crumble and fade as people kind of grow up, and move on to real life, because people is tricky as you get older and grow. I mean, you're going to figure out when you get older and grow and fill up that giant empty house of yours that it's harder to get on the, to go and do jujitsu for 3 hours after going to sushi 100%. For an hour. Like, there's your priorities and things change, but we have a great support crew. And I think that helps a lot of it as well. And, you're right. I remember, let's see, there was Excessive that was built to beat us. There was Trauma that emulated us, each one of those teams did well for a
Trauma even
second.
tried to do a house like the Dynasty house.
They
I
built the
remember as a
Dynasty house.
kid shooting JT catalog with OP and U in San Diego.
Yeah.
We had to drive to Baja, California or something to
Yeah.
shoot, and came back and you were like, "Oh, we got to go back to the Dynasty house. I got to pick something up." So me and my dad went with you, and I was like, dude, I was asking my dad, I was like 15. I'm like, they all live here, and all these girls are always all here, and it's always this crazy. And my dad's like, yes, bro, this is paintball. So me growing up, I looked at it as like the rock stars, right? Like I'm seeing BC and Alex there, and Johnny, and everybody's going crazy in downtown San Diego. These teams tried to build that, but even that camaraderie alone, most teams could never duplicate, and they tried. Excessive had a house, Trauma had that house. Everybody had their little way of trying to do it, but I don't think the Dynasty story or feel could ever be duplicated.
Yeah, it's difficult. You're right. It might not ever be able to be duplicated and emulated. And and the other thing was, we all. The other great thing is like there's
why though? There's a success there. There's something there. There's got to be a reason why.
It's the perfect mix of personalities, right? You got the perfect mix of
perfect
all.
timing and paintball,
like,
maybe too.
It's the yin and yang. It's like constantly in constant interaction and detraction of each other, but it works perfectly to keep a symmetrical circle, And
explain the timeline though, or like the time frame of paintball and Dynasty, the Dynasty house, Chuck Hench, just for people that probably don't know that story. I think it's one of the best stories in paintball.
Yeah, so in 1999 in 2000 we were Cap Factory with Chuck Hench, Chris Hagen. It was Yosh, Alex, myself. Oliver was playing with the Ironman, Johnny, BC, and we decided we wanted to go pro. And back then you could go pro as long as you could pay the entrance fee. There was no qualification section of it. They were just like, yeah, pay the entrance fee. So we talked with Chuck Hench and we're like, hey, we want to go pro. Let's start a team. And the end around now, actually, this time in 2020, or sorry, 2000, we were all at Chuck Hench's house going through a dictionary, trying to figure out the best name for the team. And I had just finished up a history class in college, and we were studying dynasties. And so there was a very bold choice of name, and hard to live up to that name right off the break. But that was the one we chose, and it ended up sticking and worked out. We went pro in 2001. It was our first season. We won our very first World Cup, which we were the first team to go from amateur, which is divisional, to pro and win an event in their first season. And then the next, like 2002 to 3, 4, 5, 6, we went on a tremendous run.
The house at this moment too, or who was living there, and how did that
got the Dynasty house? So Yosh and I moved to San Diego for school to go to college, because that was the mecca of paintball. 2001, we started Dynasty. Yosh actually went over to the Ironman, but the rest of us started Dynasty in 2002, maybe even the end of 2001. I'm pretty sure. Alex, Johnny, Oliver, all moved down to San Diego to like go to school and like live this paintball dream. We had like a 4 or 5 bedroom house at that point. And then we moved down like 3 blocks down the road to, it was old defunct frat house. And it was 2 4-bedroom houses next to each other with a big courtyard, and then a 2-bedroom apartment above it. So we had a 10-bedroom, and then in one of the masters it had this very large closet. I would call it like a 4. It was the size of a queen size bed. And that's how big the closet was. It was just bigger than a queen size bed. So we put Opie in there. So Opie lived in there. So we had 11 people living in this house. And that was the paintball house for about 4 or 5 years, 3, 4, 5 years.
Or who was funding Dynasty at this point?
So Dynasty was self-funded. So that was the other great thing about the team, is we started it as like a team. Put everything in his name to begin with, and then we ended up buying him out a couple of years later. But the team was fully funded from itself, so everybody was paying rent. I think Alex's dad was the guarantor. I think rent back then was $5,000 for 10 bedrooms, which these days is out. I mean, it's impossible.
Yeah. And how were you guys making money to afford this?
Well, so we were making money because we were winning every single tournament, just like when we were the Iron Kids. And you're going to see a documentary. We're actually shooting the Iron Kids documentary starting next month, or in the next month and a half or so. But you're gonna see a similar story, which the Iron Kids were funded because we would play a Great Western, we'd win first place, and you get like 5 or 10 JT gear bags. Rolling gear bags was first place. we'd sell all of those, pay for the entrance fee and hotels for the next event, win that event. And so we went on a run there for 4 or 5 events as the Iron Kids, the short stint that we were there, and we won every event that we entered. But we used all the prize money to pay for that. So it was funny because I went to school for international business, and there was a point in time where we were leaving. We were playing in 10 events in the U.S. With practice, and practice was at SC Village. We drove an hour and a half each way.
Yeah.
And then we were playing in 5 events in Europe, which is 5 weeks in Europe. And it got to the point in school where I had to like make kind of a difficult decision on whether to continue my learning or take a brief leave of absence, and they wouldn't let us. And at this point, Dynasty was bringing in close to $1 million, grossing almost $1 million between the sales funnel, the sponsorship dollars, and everything else for 2 years straight, actually. And the international business program wouldn't allow me to intern at my own company or use that as a reference, which was funny because I've had interns for Dynasty. I've had like 3 different people who have interned on Dynasty, the LLC, for their school. Well, 2 were at USD and 1 was at SDSU. But anyway, so we were making a lot of money from prize money, and then we had sponsorship was really big back then. So imagine, back then, first place at the PSP was like 25,000. The MPPL was 25,000. Europe was, depending on the amount of teams that entered, anywhere between $15,000 and $20,000 for first place. And one year we won, we won 8 out of 10 in the US, and then we won 10 events in a row in Europe. So prize money alone, we were bringing in plenty to pay the $500 a month in rent.
And this is obviously a rarity in paintball that a pro team was living and winning simply off wins, because I would say most pro teams can't count more than 5 wins, more than one hand worth of wins. Yeah. Like I don't see a lot of pro teams that even have a record besides Russian Legion, Art Chaos, which is not even around anymore. That's probably about it, and maybe Houston Heat.
I mean, in the last 2 years, in 2020 and 2021, a small asterisk in 2020, but there were 6 events total, and Dynasty won 3 of them.
Unreal.
And then it was an Ironman, an Impact, and a Heat. What's that?
How many wins do you think you have now?
I don't know. I got to figure that out. I got to write it down. I got to figure out which ones you count as pro wins and not pro wins, but definitely up there. With the most wins.
Would you say that? Is it you? Is it Oliver? Is it Alex with the most wins?
Me.
It's got to be. Oh, it's you for sure.
By far.
Why is that?
Because I've been playing in Europe, which got me a cup, like 2 or 3 extra wins. Alex, I think, also wasn't there at World Cup. Neither was Oliver. Obviously, Oliver was.
You've obviously still been winning after Oliver stopped. But Oliver won a lot when he left Dynasty to go play with Ironman. I was actually
it was pretty even with those.
That's actually a crazy story. I think we need to touch upon that.
Let's hear it.
Hollywood Sports. Oliver Lang is playing Saturday with.
Oh yeah.
He's there practicing with you guys, full experience. Everybody's having the time of our lives. We had a field set up that we designed for Dynasty and Ironman to practice at Hollywood Sports, which most people don't realize. But we were also practicing there, Hollywood HK at the time, when we were winning, and then
it
was only year that Hollywood HK ever won anything, but you guys were practicing, and I remember and I walk over there with my dad, of course, and we're like, what's all the commotion? And they're like, well, Oliver was practicing with Dynasty yesterday, and this morning he's in the box truck having a conversation with Benini and Dave about Ironman, and he came out wearing an Ironman jersey. And
that was a big one.
Gear bag was gone, and he had no. What went down? He's with you guys Sunday. He was on Ironman at Hollywood Sports and still practicing against you guys.
Yeah. Then he practiced against us. That was a rough one. So he quit that Saturday or that Sunday morning, and he went to the Ironman for a record-breaking deal. And it was something. It was something that he just kind of needed to do or wanted to do, and was financially incentivized to make that move. And he just didn't talk it over with any of us, which I thought was interesting. And then none of us talked for a couple of years. He went and got a girlfriend, and then clammed up for a couple of years, and then we kind of all regrouped and became friends again, and Then he broke up with his girlfriend and got back with us.
And how did that work when he came? What was the dynamic like? Yeah, obviously, in today's time, I would say most people would consider you actually just longevity and how much you win. But in the eyes of a lot of paintball players, I think Oliver was that original GOAT. He had the greatest ever just because of his elusive play. Huge argument and huge debate now. And I think most people would agree that it's probably you who's number one now of all. What was the dynamic and now having him, you, Alex, all of you guys together?
It was great. Alex definitely needed him back on the team because Alex was getting picked on a little too much, and Oliver definitely has Alex's back. So Alex was pumped to have his friend back, so he could gang up on me a little more easily. But no, it was good. I mean, we have an interesting dynamic between the two of us. Like Oliver's an artist and I'm like an architect. That's what Rusty had always said, is you need both of them to build something and I guess in our sense, win and create a winning formula. And I thought that was always interesting, because an artist doesn't care what the structure of anything looks like. And that's all Oliver was. Oliver's a bully on the field, and he wanted to like go in there and bully people around. And he's brilliant and he's a great player, but you need some structure to every beautiful piece of art to hold it up. So I thought that was always an interesting analogy to take. Now, I mean, it was great. We were at each other's. Yeah, Rusty.
I was going to say Rusty was the coach of you guys while you guys were playing, and obviously a couple events, and then you won that big World Cup on that return. What's the dynamic like with Rusty? You guys being obviously way more successful as paintball players than he ever was, but him being a dynamic and very
well
players together.
Yeah, Rusty's incredibly tactical. He's very, very statistical as well, and he actually played on Dynasty and won paintball tournaments with Dynasty, and he was a really good player. And it was one of those things when at some point in time, like as the field, the level of play kind of starts to become a little bit more distant for a player. Like, we don't like parting ways with guys. We never really cut anybody. Actually, I still to this day don't think we've really ever cut anybody. I think for the most part, either people quit to move to another team or we ask them if they would like a different position, which we asked Todd and he said no and went on to Infamous. But, we asked Rusty, we said, Yosh did, and said, this is what we think. And Rusty kind of see the writing on the wall because, again, Rusty doesn't mess around, right? He knows what's up. He's pretty cut and dry, and he understands, and he's like, yep, I see it, I appreciate it, you're absolutely right, when do I get to work? And Rusty obviously coached us through a lot of wins, and I think he's a great mind in paintball, and we're stoked to have him. We were lucky to have him.
What's going on now with the coaching staff on Dynasty, and what's that look like in terms of all the coaches you've had throughout the years? Is it working now better than ever?
We got Skit. Oh yeah, we got Skinny Kevin back, and he coached us for a little bit. We're difficult to coach. I'm difficult to coach, I think, but we're difficult to coach because it's like you're coaching some of the best players and the best minds in the history of the sport. So like, it's difficult that when a coach tells you to do something, you're like, well, I mean, are you sure? Because any one of us, any of the guys on Dynasty would be good coaches. Because we all have great paintball minds. So that makes our team a little more difficult to coach. But and on top of that, like we all have very strong opinions on a lot of things, and that may also have led to our success as well, is because we're always governed by each other, and a lot of that will help to propel us forward, because always finding and honing the best product and the best plan and the best whatever it is. But Skinny Kevin really handles. It looks like he might explode a couple of times here and there. At least once an event, his head looks like it might explode. But he handles us very well, and he's really good at keeping everybody together and shutting people up, and that's a big one, right?
Yeah, I mean, he was a player for Dynasty, which I'm sure most people know. He was an original, and damage for a minute and then kind of drifted around and I think worked for back. So did you guys cut Rusty and go and get him, or did you just find him or say it was time?
Well, Rusty actually let us know right before the first event, about 3 weeks before, maybe 2 weeks before the first event, that he was no longer able to. He's got 4 kids,
Yeah.
and all of them now are in like sports, kids sports, multiple sports. I've got one kid, and she's not in sports yet, and I know how much time she takes up. So I can't imagine having 4 kids and all 4 of them beginning to do this myriad of different sports, and he coaches those teams. So anyway, long story short, he had to step up and do family duty stuff, and so he bowed out at the beginning of the 2021 season. So we put together a little list of names and started asking. And luckily Skinny was available. Kevin's like, awesome. I'm not going to make it to this weekend at practice because I'm going to Cabo tomorrow, but I'll be there next weekend. Just give me a list of who's on the team.
And now, what does it look like in terms of Dynasty? Trying to pick up new players besides Archie, get rid of players. I mean, the dynamic between all the pro teams is either you have a bunch of money and you buy the best players, or you're Dynasty and you just build players over the years and hopefully they stay with you and don't leave to another team. So where does that put Dynasty for 2022?
Yeah, I mean, we have a stacked full roster. Dalton's going to be healthy, hopefully by the first event, and we picked up a local player who played on a semi-pro team. His name's Damian Velasquez, and he, in the one practice that he practiced with us, he played really, really well, and we're stoked on him. And Kevin had been watching him play down in Mexico because Kevin started coaching teams down in Mexico a little bit. So yeah, he plays really well, and we're hoping that. We're thinking that he's going to be a really good fit. We grab Archie, so we have a 10-man roster right now. So we're stacked. We're stacked.
And are you guys playing European ball or just the NXL?
Just the NXL. JT's not paying us that much. No, we have to. It's expensive to get over to Europe. Yeah, I'm stoked. I'm so happy when I put those goggles on. I'm excited to see some of our jerseys too.
Best goggle in paintball.
So now Dynasty over the years, Ryan, you've seen all the.
Let's start talking a little bit about paintball
in general. We don't have a lot of time left. So in terms of pro players,
now,
who are some of the top players right now, besides Mouse and
basic players? Who are some of the pro paintball players
at the top of their game that people don't get enough shine? They don't get enough talk.
Well, I mean, I think that all the top guys get a lot, but I would say, some of the guys that are out on Revo, Revo is a top 4, top 5 team. Infamous also has some players that are doing incredibly well and doing big things as well. I'm interested to see how their roster changes up a little bit. They lost Greg, and I don't know if they've picked anybody up yet, but I could see someone going, a guy or two going over to their squad to help bolster up their roster. But I mean, all the guys that are really good, Mishka doesn't get enough shine. I mean, he's insanely good. And he's just kind of the quiet counterpart to Fedorov.
Yeah.
But he's a tremendous player from out there. I could see Heat picking up another player. I think they might pick up that Smotrov kid who's also really good. Hot and cold. Fedorov's pretty hot and cold though. Fedorov's insanely good, but he's just like, it's just way too inconsistent with his playing. I'd say Tyler's probably the best guy because the most consistent, and Chad George also on that team. And Moorhead, I think Moorhead doesn't get enough shine either. Do you know that Ryan Moorhead has not worn pads in pads? Like, he doesn't wear knee pads or elbow pads. I don't think he even wears a boxer underwear. Like, I think the only undergarment that he wears a headband, an American flag bandana that he got at a truck stop, and he wears socks. He might not even wear socks, to be completely honest with you.
The guy's been wearing the same swag since the 90s, bro.
Yeah, I know, but he's still really good and he gets it done. And what he does a lot, which is pretty impressive, is they'll just be like, Chad needs a break. Ryan, will you run to the snake? And he's like, yeah, okay. Runs and dives the snake, no elbow pads. And they're like, oh, hey, go play up the middle. And he's like, all right. And then he go run over the Dorito side. He excels at every position that he plays in. So I think that he could use a little bit.
What do you think is going on? They have the best player on paper. They have the best roster on paper. to make the best play calls. What do you think the deal is with that team? Why can't they?
I don't know. They did figure it out though. I mean, they won the first event. They did well at the second event. I thought, yeah, they did. They did second place at the second event, and then they just kind of fell apart the last two events. And to be completely honest, I don't watch them. I don't watch anybody. I watch the guys that are in our bracket. I watch the team that we're supposed to watch. But other than that, I'm not really like paying a whole lot of attention, which I should do a little bit better. But that's kind of a fault of my own, is not paying the best attention to my competition. But I got stuff going on.
There's no need to watch teams you're not playing against. And over the years,
well, I do. I like to watch to see how the field plays, but like I'm not like, oh, how did they just lose that? Like I'll watch and be like, oh, they're up, or oh, no, they're gonna lose. Like I just kind of check my Instagram.
I guess
you set up for me, by the way. You know that you set up for for me, so
don't ever forget the reason it happened. Yeah, I made you
give you a plug
social
there.
media. I made you get. So listen, Greenspan, you've seen guys like, even Tyler Harmon, guys like A-Rod, who have come to Dynasty camp and surrounding teams, played with you guys, and go to other teams. Now they're all on top pro teams playing against you guys. Why is it that you think the differentiator between, or what is the differentiator between players now? Because everybody is so close in skill level, but when it comes to winning, it's the same teams over and over, I would say.
Well, yeah, I mean, the best team's always going to prevail, or statistically is going to be prevailing, and I mean, we trained half of the pro league that we're playing against. Not like we, I don't know. It's hard to say. What's the difference? It's the temperature is different. The lot the lot number in the paint.
It's that small?
Sometimes it is. I mean, look, with the exception of Chicago. I mean, Chicago, there was no touching us. There's no touching Alex Frazier in Chicago. But for the most part, I mean, like look at our World Cup victory in 2020. Like it went to overtime. The World Cup victory in 2021 went to 1 point with X Factor, back and forth and back and forth. It's who's on and who's off, who's playing really well and who steps up. And you're going to get different guys that shine in different moments, and that's just their opportunity and their time, and they're feeling it. It's like the hot hand when guys are playing basketball. It's like sometimes the dude's on and sometimes the dude's off, and if you are on, if you have five guys that are on, and that's why I say Revo. I bring Revo up is because they have a hot hand. They just don't have the depth to like fall back on. Those guys are playing until the wheels literally fall off, and then that's like they run out of steam. And that's
the reason why they can't get that win is they don't have a star player hold them down as an anchor to say, hey.
Well, no, they have star players. They don't have the extra two bodies. Like for instance, I think that one of the downfalls for us in Philly, I think we're having a tremendous event in Philly also, but we had two guys go down to injury. We were playing with six, and we were literally like, we were down to five or six guys, and we looked over at Arturo, and he like had a broken hand, he had screws put in his hand 5 days prior to the event, and we're like, put something over your hand. We need you to run to the Doritos. We don't have any guys. We have 5 guys. Like, you have to play. And I think that had we had a little bit more depth, we possibly could have beaten Houston Heat. If there was a way to slow Fedorov down, we were neck and neck for the majority of that event and that match, but we lost bodies. Like Alex got injured, Dalton got injured. Arturo was playing with a broken, like literally with screws in his hand, going into that last event. And he's like, I'm like, how's your hand feel? He's like, I'm nervous. And I'm like, well, no, that's not what I asked. Like, don't.
Yeah.
Don't tell me that.
I mean, that's the difference though between winning teams and losing teams. They don't have the right pieces, right? And it comes down to that. Yeah. I've seen it over the years. I've seen the best pro teams. I've been able to jump around on different teams and see how people structure, organize. It comes down to practices and getting ready for a tournament. Dynasty's always had the luxury of, hey, our 4 or 5 core guys are the best players in the world. It doesn't really matter who you put out there. So that also helps. So seeing teams like Russian Legion, Ironman, and seeing the heyday of these teams, like for example, let's start with Russia. Think they're at the heyday. Do you think they've surpassed the greatness that they want to ever come back? Explain, like a team like Russian Legion, where do you see them at?
Well, I'd be surprised if they field a team for 2022. I know that there's some visa issues. I know that I mean, they had an awful season. And again, it was
Yeah.
depth, right? They didn't have the bodies to put on the field. They were like getting guys from South America, like the players in South and Central, excuse me, South and Central
They were a
America
legendary team at
are
one point, though.
yeah, I know. So I mean, I don't know what's gonna happen. I talked to Kirill here and there, and having him not there is a big problem for the team because he's the big leader of the team. It's like
Mhm.
not having Alex at the field or something.
Yeah.
Um,
And then you see a
but
team like,
y-
for example, they've had multiple heydays. They'd have multiple rosters. They have multiple of the top pro paintball players in the world playing on their
Impact's
team.
gonna be fine, dude. Those guys are gonna be fine. They're gonna be fine.
Okay. And do you think
Yeah,
that they've ever rostered?
um, I mean, it's up there. Yeah, I mean, I would say it's a pretty darn good team. I
Yeah.
don't think that I think that like Brandon and Justin Cornell, with I think Greg used to be on the team. I don't think that he's better than either one of those two guys. I mean, definitely
Yeah.
not. I think that they have a really good team. They have a super solid team.
What do you think about Ironman? Obviously, they used to be a top team. They used to be one of the best names in paintball. What's up with
Yeah,
them?
I don't know, man. They don't have they're lacking a bunch of things.
Like what?
They have budgetary restrictions. No one really, to be honest, wants to play for M 2022s. I don't know what number they're at, but like, yeah, like you offer someone five of those things and they're like, I'm gonna go
Yeah.
play with whatever these schmohawks over here. I'd rather play with someone
Yeah.
else. Um, and so I think that the name unfortunately has lost a little bit of its luster. And now, granted, they won an event in 2022. Or sorry, 2020. Yeah, they won an event in 2020. They won Vegas. Then A Rod just bailed on them. That was lousy, and that hurt them tremendously. But look at like they were one of our toughest matches at each of the last two events. Like they're a good team. They have players that are there. They're right there. And I mean, it sucks because they lost one of their star players last year, Christian Martinez, which I think was a really good player. He's
Hmm.
young, hurt himself. This year they lost like three guys already going into 2022. I think they have four dudes on their roster, and I just think that the name, they're running out of guys in Southern California. And I know that a handful of their teammates or players are transplants, but they're just not quite getting it done in the closing moments, and a lot of their games come down to like either overtime with us, which happened, or they're like down to 1 point. So they have a good team. It's just again, they're missing that one thing that I was telling you about. It's like that one, like you need one guy to step up just once in any time, because any time that you lose a match by one or in overtime, it's literally like one small mistake that you can trace it back to, that the points flip and you're now 4-0 instead of 1-3,
Yeah.
so you just need one person, one guy, one time to step up each day and you're fine.
The star power,
The rock star lifestyle of paintball from the Avalanche, Rocky Cagnoni days
lane days,
to the Dynasty days. Where have you seen pro paintball now? And I talk about this with a lot of people because paintball gets
enough
in terms of like the excessive days with these type of teams being built with the best
the country, like
Nikki
Davey Williams.
and these old school guys coming together to build these superstar teams. Where do you see the culture of pro paintball now in terms of teams in the community and the events?
I've never been to like a curling event or like one of those like lawn bowling events, but it's probably on par with that to compare to where it was in 2005 and
Yeah.
2007. It was funny. I just did an interview with somebody, and they're like, "Are there like big, are there groupies? Are there big parties? Are there like, what's it like?" And I go, honestly, you win an event, it's a ghost town. There's five people standing out there who are like, a couple of them were like, I don't even know where I'm looking for my car keys. And they give you some cheap champagne to spray, and then we immediately run to the airport. We pile into the one hotel that we kept, shower, and then rush to the airport. Or if it's on the East Coast and we can't fly back in time, then we like go to a nice dinner. Gone are the days where that like rock star lifestyle and like the culture, the big money spend and like the big booths and like fireworks and explosions and all that excitement. That's all gone, and it's unfortunate. But you know what are you gonna do when you win? Like it's embarrassing holding the check up. Uh, like, you know, when you win an event, you're like, all right, just put the check on the ground because I don't want to post this on any social media that we all get to split $12,000. Like, it's just not very cool.
Yeah.
So that's a problem, right? You work in social media, you know that. Like, if the teams don't want to post about your prize package, like, and I get it, like there's just not enough loot in the market anymore, and that's just straight up how it is. Less dollars being spent or made, rather. It's not less dollars being spent. Do I miss it?
These, yeah.
I got a kid, a beautiful wife, the whole deal.
What was it? What was it that you think attracted you as a kid to want to play pro paint this for a living compared to how it is now? Because for me growing up, when I would go to the park on the weekend, I would hundreds of paintball, listen to your war stories of the parties the night before, watch you guys all practice, talk shop and eat, talk about the practice, and then we would do it again Sunday. And then I would wait Monday through Friday at school following weekend. And it's not like that anymore. No matter what people talk about the Mecca of SC Village or Hollywood sports, it's just not like that anymore.
Well, it is. It's just not like that for you. There are certainly kids and people that are like going to the field hoping that now, I mean, the schedules then and now are way
I'm
different.
talking about the pro scene. I'm talking about the pro scene specific.
Yeah, I mean, but I could argue that there that is still there. Like when we go to Capital Edge, there's people and kids and like stoked that Dynasty's coming to practice Impact, and they're going to be like, I'm going to come out there and watch. Now it's a little different back as it used to be because you know the cultures. You're right, is a little bit different. You know, it's not. There's no more magazines but you could argue that we're even more accessible. And what made me, drove me, I was just good at paintball. Like I wasn't really good at anything else.
Yeah.
You know, like it was a I'm I'm a competitive person. If you're a
Yeah.
competitive person and you can't play traditional sports,
Yeah.
then you know, if you're good at anything, you're going to be passionate at that thing, and that's just kind of like how it is. That's just the nature of that's just human nature, right? I'm not going to be like I'm really good at paintball. I'm going to go try to do competitive surfing and go lose over here for a lot. But you know, that's interesting. I say that too because that's pretty much what Oliver did, right? Oliver's like, I've done everything, I've won everything. Like I don't need to do this anymore. I'm going to go be bad at something else until I'm really good at it. You know, and I love that. That's admirable that he did that. I'm just keep milking it. I'm just selfish.
Still the
Number one fish in the pond, so it doesn't really matter. All right, so
I'm
fire
just
hour
waiting
real
for that.
quick.
Yeah,
Last question. Everybody knows the rules. We're gonna.
there we go.
I'm gonna give you two
Not the
players,
last
two coaches, two teams. You're gonna tell me who's better, left, right. You know the
Come
game.
on, don't do this.
We have to do this. This is what the people want to know. This is what they come here for, dude.
All right.
This is the fireworks. Okay,
All right,
Alex Goldman or A-Rod?
Alex Goldman.
Wow. Why is that?
He's really fast.
Or Tyler Harmon?
Archie.
Oh, just because you picked him up and you don't like Tyler for leaving?
Versatility.
All right, that works.
Fedorov or Mishka?
Mishka.
Damn, why is that?
Consistency.
Yeah, I love it.
I played on
Russian Legion, sorry. All right, coaches. Rusty Glaze, Skinny K.
It's a tough one. So I'm only gonna go with Skinny Kevin because he tells me to shut up, and I kind
So you like him because he knows how to coach you. All right, that works. Abe Haynes or Mike Hinman?
So this one's tough from a coaching. So Mike isn't really. I feel like Mike doesn't coach as much as he mentors. Like Mike churns over pro players. Like he makes pro players. Dave is more of a coach. Dave coaches. So I think that those are, and I think that people do get that you know Mike can coach and Mike will coach, but Mike is making you a better player. Sometimes, albeit he's very abrasive.
Yeah.
But
He
there's
is who
no,
he is.
you know, like he's made more pro players like than Dynasty has, because obviously we don't coach up semi-pro teams. So I would say that's a wash.
Okay, cool. Now, old school, just for the people that still remember people, Shane Pastana as a coach or Chuck Hench?
Shane Pastana. I've
Did
never had
you,
him a coach.
did
Actually,
you ever
Chuck
play?
wasn't a coach either.
Yeah, he was
I've
your
never
coach.
played with
Did you
him.
play for Shane?
No.
No. Okay, as a player, Billy Suransky or Chris Lasoya?
Chris Lasoya.
Damn.
For sure.
Like that?
Wait, hold on. Is it now or like in their primes?
Including football.
Yeah, I think it has to be Chris.
All right, Davey Williamson or Rich Telford?
Davey Williamson. Dude, Davey Williamson's still good.
Is he playing woods ball with you guys?
Yeah, sometimes. He just comes out and he works people.
Travis Lemansky or Bob Long?
Probably Travis. Yeah. Probably.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, if it's Bob Long in the back left with one of those warp feeds and an intimidator, then you got to pick Bob because he's impossible to shoot. Only in the right tape, just a barrel coming out of a snake.
Yeah, I guess that works. Greg Sewers or Thomas?
Thomas. He's gonna win you a lot more or lose you a lot more. Ryan Moorhead. I'm choosing Ryan Moorhead. Like, he's at the top of my list, dude. I don't know if you heard my description of him earlier, but
Okay. Now give me one or two players that everybody should be looking out for that you think need some shine.
You broke up. I think the
one or two players in the pro division.
One or two players in the pro division that people need to look out for this year coming into 2022 that need some shine.
Dude, I don't know. I'm the wrong person to ask this question. I don't even know everybody in the pro. I can't name the guys on every team.
There's no one that Dynasty is looking at.
Well, I guess Dynasty is looking at plenty of people, but I don't really know who all of them are. That's a Skinny Kevin question.
Well, there's the answer.
Skinny Kevin question. I don't know.
You want to look at?
I don't know.
You
bad guys. I don't know. No, I don't. I look. We got 10 guys on our team. We're not looking at anybody.
You just don't want us to know. Okay, before we go, last question. There was woods ball,
there was hyper ball, there was tournament ball, and now there's ball. Out of those formats, it could be tournament paintball just because you've won it all. What have you loved?
Which one of those do I like the most?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's a good question. I think that I enjoyed playing Hyperball a lot. That might be on like right neck and neck with my favorite version of tournament sides, but I enjoy playing Woods Ball like for fun. Like when I go out for fun, it's like we're gonna go play in the woods. And
that you love Hyperball.
I don't know, maybe it's the sound, the spray, like you feel like you're really in it,
Yeah. I don't
like that it's not. Yeah, I don't like that it's not modular. It's everything's stuck.
Yeah, it was a cool environment growing up. I mean, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. Full Experience Podcast. Ryan Greenspan, Field 1, Dynasty 2022, which is like what, the 30th Dynasty. What season is this for Dynasty?
This would be 22.
22 season. I was there when you won your first event. I think you got benched in the finals and then they let you play, but yeah, you killed it.
That didn't happen.
It's exciting to watch for jumping on here. I'm excited for people to, obviously they all know your story, but it's good to touch base with you every once in a while, feel for what's going on and watch you guys.
Thanks for keeping it cordial and not cornering me.
This was a great conversation.
Even though you kind of did corner me.
No, this was very,
yeah.